In this series we have learned about the ego. Now we can't stop the ego acting like the ego. It's what it is. It's part of all human beings. It abhors the universal change with its intimations of mortality and stewardship. And it's incredibly ingenious at denying this and attaching us to all manner of things. It's the inveterate trickster. And this tends to generate a lot of problems and misery for us. There is one final thing we should discuss about the ego. The ego tends to cause us to reflect and symbolize reality in an increasingly fragmented way. Remember, reality is the continual universal change which we are all an integral part of. And remember, the ego is born of division. Well, the sustainability principle is very helpful here because it reveals how the ego fragments our vision. It shows us how the ego, using all manner of trickery, destroys the capacity of our symbols to accurately reflect reality. This destruction promotes miserable, deprived experiences of existence. Let us remind ourselves of a few quick examples of this trickery, and then see what happens if we use the sustainability principle to actively conserve the potential of some of our primed symbols. The sustainability principle provides us with a simple rule: refrain from confusing energy with any or one of the forms it can take. Energy is the amazing potential of the universes. Give each form its own symbol so it can be known to all. And check out the grand confusion in this example. Power is no particular thing other than what it is, a measure. It's the measurement of the rate that the potential of the universe is manifest. And we can measure this potential from myriad perspectives. Every measure becomes a reminder of the bounteous nature of energy. Here is a classic example of the non-science the ego can generate. And you hear this from a lot of people who call themselves scientists. And often it gets worse. Here the ego has people confusing energy with the measurement of energy, as well as equating energy with a form, in this case a form that does not even exist. The reality is there is no such thing as electricity. What do exist are many electrical phenomena, and each has its unique properties and potential uses. Together they provide us with an amazing vision of existence with fantastic possibilities. We have discussed the prevailing abuse of both the warming and the cooling symbols, with our associated denial of vital changes of state. Too often the ego triumphs by tricking us into failing to use vital transition symbols such as up and down, which of course work to remind us that when the temperature of an object changes, so does its state. In other words, it is transformed. Thus we forget that all things arise and pass, and thus we are denied the fuller experience of the immense and wonderful vibrancy of the universal, continuous thermal interchange. Similarly, the common symbolizing of Earth's atmosphere as a greenhouse is an exemplar of the ego's dangerous capacity to generate in us supreme arrogance and static sensations. Earth's atmosphere is what it is. Earth's atmosphere. An amazing organic and dynamic system in which trace gases play pivotal roles in enabling life to exist on Earth. By embracing the atmosphere symbol, we are open to the many wonderful effects of the atmosphere, such as the translucent effect by which its gases are largely translucent to sunlight, and to the vital warming effect of a few trace gases such as water vapour and carbon dioxide, and to the amazing moderating effect to that most trace of gases, ozone, and to the immense convective effect of air in general. and recall how the ego works to convince us that energy efficiency is about deprivation. The sustainability principle of energy reminds us that we have many options, and it does not matter whether we use more or less energy, but rather that our use of materials conserves the balances and flows that sustain humanity. It liberates us from the miserable machinations of our modern ego-driven corporations. Perhaps the greatest triumph this last 3 centuries of the ego is in tricking us into the belief that science is a way of thinking, the domain of an elite. The results of this trick can be seen in the horrific excesses of the Industrial Revolution. Check out this graph showing how our basic commodities are now in terminal decline. Discussions of the dangers of this egomania and the joys in conserving the potential of the science symbol requires its own video series. Suffice to say for now, hope and our survival depends on a paradigm shift in which we embrace science as an inclusive way of being, and we each know that we are all scientists to some degree. Finally, one more example. Recall how the sustainability principle of energy is born of the wonderful conservation principle of energy, and recall how, as a young child, you were taught to associate the conservation symbol with love and care. What an extraordinary, ingenious and mischievous trick of the ego it is that those who destroy the resources of this planet most symbolize themselves as conservatives, and for many adults the conservative symbol becomes associated with greed and psychopathy. The ultimate message of the conservation principle of energy is generous and firm. We have myriad options, and the survival of humanity depends on whether we are conservatives or non-conservatives of the resources of planet Earth. The ultimate message of the sustainability principle of energy is equally generous and firm. The universal potential is incredibly bounteous, and the existence of humanity depends on whether we are conservatives or non-conservatives of the potential of the symbols that can manifest that universal potential. I hope you can see a pattern emerging here. The ego promotes symbol uses that limit our options and destroy our potential generally. However, by using symbols in ways that embrace our roles as stewards amidst universal change, we are open to unimagined opportunities. To paraphrase the NPR series on global warming, and the best way to find a solution is to understand the problem. This series has concentrated on the ego, the main actor in this drama. We know a lot about the ego, its habits, its attachments, its strengths, and in the end, as we said in the beginning, it's all about the ego.